You're listening to Head Voice, bringing you inside the minds of singers and sound creators who are redefining what it means to make music with the voice. I'm Evan.
And I'm Kayla, and this week we have Christopher Given Harrison on. During this episode, we talked about the origin story of Sonos, its transformation into Aurora, and the process behind Bioluminescence.
The format for today's show is a little different. If you have heard of the show Song Exploder, we're doing a kind of homage to that. So Christopher sent us the stems for one of the songs off Bioluminescence, Aurora's seminal album, and we broke down Morning Light in its entirety, all the different production elements and recording choices that were made on that. So I hope you like something a little bit different. If you're looking for a last-minute Christmas gift, may I suggest a Head Voice t-shirt available now on Amazon in multiple colors and sizes.
Grandma will love it. Well, maybe not Grandma, but someone.
I don't have anything else. Let's get into it with Christopher Given Harrison.
Cool. So I'm going to get started. Thank you, Christopher, for joining us on Head Voice. We're very excited to have you on.
I'm happy to be here.
Yay.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So we actually wanted to start with the origin story, so to speak, of Aurora, Sonos, and we read somewhere that it started as a recording project. So I was wondering if you could kind of speak to that a little bit and see and how that sort of started.
Absolutely. Yeah, it did start as a recording project. There's a college group called Awaken Acapella at UCLA, and they recorded, long after I had graduated and left the group, they recorded Hide and Seek. They did an arrangement and recorded Hide and Seek.
Classic.
And yeah, that's right. Which made everybody super happy who was singing on it. And this dude named Hugo heard it on KCRW. It got played on KCRW, which is like the local... it's like a
Morning Becomes Eclectic, right? KCW?
That's correct. Absolutely, yeah. It's fantastic. It's a really it's a wonderful source for new music that's still on the radio, which is kind of cool and weird and rare. But this is a long time ago. This was in 2006. So yeah, this dude heard that, thought it was really cool. He was a music producer in that vague way where a producer means like a million different things. Yeah. It might mean that you just establish relationships between creative people. It might mean that you put up money for stuff. It might mean that you make sounds. And we didn't know which it was when we were approached by this dude. When they were approached by this dude. The college group was approached by him and he said, "Hey, I'm this dude and I'm a producer of music and I'd love to collaborate with you guys on a recording project of interesting songs like this. I think it's really cool that you did, that you covered Imogen Heap's Hide and Seek instead of Don't Stop Believin', which there's nothing wrong with it all, but it's been done a quillion times. So, good on you guys for picking an interesting song by an interesting lesser known artist. And I'd love to sort of oversee and like shepherd a recording project of about 10 songs." And the response to that was, I believe it was Jessica Friedman who was reached out to. She was in college and in the group at the time. And she said, "Thank you, that's really cool. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, something to the effect of, "Thank you, that's really cool. We're all super busy with school, so taking on even more stuff outside of, this extracurricular group that we're all in together could be tricky. And membership, shifts every year. People leave and new people come in. So, I mean, how does that work with what you're envisioning?" And he said, "Well, what if you," again, I'm paraphrasing, what if you sort of put together a supergroup? What if you put together, who you feel are the strongest singers and people who will have the time and be interested in making the time to make a record like this?" And so she asked around in the group, and then she reached out to people outside the group who used to be in the group. And I was one of the folks reached out to in that context of let's find some people who are no longer busy with school and maybe, hopefully, twiddling their thumbs and wanting to do more music things than they're currently doing. So I got reached out to there. Me and this dude had a sit down and kind of talked out the logistics of making a record, and responsibility by responsibility, I was sort of invited to take charge of each of the technical aspects of getting a record made, like choosing songs and arranging songs and then recording those songs and then mixing those songs. So Yeah, without there ever being a direct specific, hey, you're going to do all these things. Are you in or not? We just sort of slid towards recording stuff and in a fairly low pressure way. And it was cool. It was like a zero stakes, purely creative thing because no one knew who this dude was. And we weren't a pre-existing band or anything. We didn't have a name or anything. So, yeah. We got about 5 songs in, and the group that started at about 15 people was whittled down to 6 people because it's really hard to get 15 people to. It's really hard to get 6 people to show up in the same spot at the same time. So 15 was like nearly impossible. So I then sort of did a second round of like, well, let's keep the folks who maybe are the strongest singers and who, want to do this maybe first and foremost, and we'll see if something happens with it. And so we became 6 people, and this Hugo fellow shopped us around and actually put us in the right room at the right time, and we got a record deal with Verve, which is a jazz or was a jazz label primarily, and I think now it's sort of it was swallowed up by Universal a long time ago, but I think is still sort of a primarily jazz oriented label. Diana Krall and Elvis Costello, I feel like, are the 2 sort of big current heavy hitter people on Verve. Anyway, and we got a record deal, which I'm sure is never. I feel like that era is over. That's probably a sentence that you're only going to hear in like 80s and 90s movies, and people probably won't use that phrase anymore. But yeah, it was super exciting. That's a lot of it. That's not everything. But
and then when you were signed, were you signed as Sonos or just like as a thing?
Oh no, we chose the name Sonos at least several months before, maybe a year before or something like that, before the deal happened. Yeah, we were kind of spitballing for names for a while, and Sonos I actually came up with because when I was at UCLA, I worked in the music library and was shelving books. There were, most of the books in the library are sort of like navy blue and black and, like faded burgundy, like just old stereotypical library book colored books.
Right.
And then there was a bright neon day-glow orange book that in gold leaf down the spine said Sonos. I was like, that's a really pretty word, and it's a palindrome, and it looks cool, and that's interesting.
It's speaking to me right now.
It's speaking to me. Absolutely. I was like, and I keep seeing it, and it almost feels like a joke because it's like if you were like a bad director, you'd set up the scene like that, like, okay, and then this book will be neon orange, against all these very, very faded color, dark color books. Yeah, I looked it up, and the only translation I could find for it was systems of sound or organization of sound, which was kind of vague and cool. And I was like, oh, maybe someday I'll have a band or a venue called Sonos. I think that'd be a good name for either one of those things. So I sort of had that in my brain's back pocket from college, and this is 3 years after I graduated. And so I threw the name out as a possibility. And I don't think anyone like loved it right away. I think everyone was like, huh, that's kind of maybe, okay. And then I think it just sort of, kind of like the recording project went, it just sort of was there and stayed around and kept going. And so, yeah, at a certain point, we just went, oh, yeah, it's called Sonos.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
I'm curious now also because there's obviously a lot of bits and pieces to it and a lot of years to it as well. But how did the transition sort of happen from Sonos to Aurora?
The Sonos to Aurora transition was... So the first Sonos record, called Sonos Sings, is all cover songs. And most of them done fairly different from the original version. We didn't try to completely reinvent anything for the sake of being weird or different, but we definitely tried to, with any of the tunes I arranged, I think I did 7 of the 10. Are there 10? I don't know. I did a lot of them. And yeah, tried to like sort of celebrate what I was really stoked on in the original and then bring my own weird brain to it as much as I could.
Yeah. And
I don't want to say gimmick, but that sort of became the filter through which music was happening in our group. Was like, oh, we'll do a like weird feelingsy version of an already weird feelingsy song that we like or love. And the use of effects pedals, but I'm sure I can bore you to death about effects pedals later. Yeah, so then we made like a holiday record, like not a Christmas record, but I mean it's called December Songs. We made like a wintertime record that has some Christmas carols on it, and on that record, a few folks wrote original songs, and that was really exciting and fun. And so when we went to make a third record, we talked for a long time. We talked about doing a record entirely of originals. I really was excited to do that because I found it actually sort of frustrating to arrange a song I really liked and sometimes keep really only the melody and sort of build everything else from scratch around it. And I would finish that and be like, this is awesome. It sucks that I don't get to feel like it's mine. Like I wrote a bunch of stuff that's not in the original song at all. And it was certainly prompted by this song, but maybe we can do a whole record of songs from scratch from the group of us. It was helpful that the name change happened with we're making a record of originals. Also, one of our members is leaving. Paul Pegler, who was in Sonos, who was in the 15 and the 6. His primary ambition had always been to be an actor, and he's a great actor, and he's a really funny dude and a charismatic dude. And that, that had been kind of tugging on his coattails for a while. And so at a certain point, just, we toured for a good while, and at a certain point we all just had to sit down, and he was like, guys, I'm going to go do my number one thing. This is all your guys' number one thing, and that's awesome. And I love it, but I'm going to go pursue my primary thing as well.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was about that time that we had started working on, or we were about to start working on a record of originals. And yeah, so the name change is sort of opportune because it's like, well, let's sort of rebrand what we're doing if we're going to be like a band that writes songs primarily now. Also, there's a speaker system called Sonos that I believe was founded in the same month of the same year that we named ourselves.
That's nuts.
And I remember the first time I Googled them and found them, it was like a little portable room speaker thing or multi-room speaker system and based out of Santa Barbara. And I was like, oh, well, that's probably not going to be a problem. Cut to a handful of years later, and they're like the coolest, most successful speaker product on the planet or anywhere else. And their whole branding angle is pairing themselves with amazing artists. So all of a sudden there were these billboards all over LA that said Sonos and had like Questlove or Janelle Monáe or like Deadmau5 or something on the billboard with them. And we were like, oh, well, like that's not us, and that's way cooler than we look anytime we put anything online with the word Sonos.
So they're probably not going to go for the Sonos collaboration is the thought, and then you got to change it up.
Well, we hoped that they excuse me. Yeah, no, we hoped that maybe it would somehow help. But we actually, at a certain point, we did reach out and kind of touch base with them and go, hey, maybe we could do a thing at some point together. Also, are you troubled at all that we have the same name? We're about to finish this record of original music and release it. We've considered changing our name, Do you think at any point there would be a legal problem with us having the same name? And they didn't speak to me directly, but to our manager, they were like, yeah, it's probably great if you change your name. That would probably be cool of you. So we were, sure enough, super down. Yeah, so we brainstormed again, and we argued for a good long time about a new band name. And I thought of Aurora as well, and it's another stupid palindrome, and I think it looks really cool on the page, with
especially
the
with the R's
blah, blah, blah.
backwards.
Exactly. No, but I really do. I mean, it's I feel like you see a band's name as much as you hear it. In fact, maybe on the internet you probably see it more than you hear it. So I really liked that. I thought it looked great. I thought it looked cool. I like that it has no closed consonants in it. I like that there's a Bjork song called Aurora. I like the Aurora Borealis. Anyway,
lots of good stuff.
Yeah, so it was a name I threw out, and there was like lukewarm response to it, and enthusiastic yeses, and I think of enthusiastic no or two. We're all very opinionated and have great big feelings, myself absolutely included. It may be especially included. So yeah, we argued about it for a good long while, and then people very sweetly and generously came around, and so we're called Aurora. Yeah.
And then so I guess in the process leading up to Bioluminescence, kind of what obviously the idea is to make an all originals album. Where was the band at? Where were you at in terms of, what you were listening to, what, in your life is informing what was going on that record?
A lot of different things simultaneously, I think. We started to work on it, and everybody, was kind of, I think everybody was sort of filled with question marks. Like, what, does this mean that we're going to write songs and then arrange them for vocal music, for an a cappella context, which is what we're all used to doing. Everyone had been in some form of a cappella group or jazz choir or whatever it was. So yeah, sort of the protocol everyone was used to create music for the group was take an existing song and arrange it for voices. And so it was a little bit weird to go straight to, and not weird, but just new to go straight to writing original all vocal music that wasn't classical or like a jazz arrangement or something. So yeah, people sort of started mining themselves for creative ideas and things they wanted to write about, and everybody faced down a lot of weird fears and self-doubt and is this going to be weird? Is this going to work? I have some ideas that I like. I hope they come off. And then we got invited for the third year in a row. The folks at the Sing Off reached out to us and invited us to come on the show, which was very sweet. We couldn't do it the first time because we had the Verve deal, and the grand prize for that show is a record deal. And you obviously are not allowed to pursue a record deal if you have a record deal. That makes the first record deal people very angry. So with this third one, or with the third season, they said, we're happy to work around that. We're happy to like reach out to them and come to some agreement where, either both parties benefit or it's somehow okay. Also, that's only a factor if you guys win. And I was like, yeah, we're not going to win. That show is like a high energy, happy, fun song show. And we're sad Sonos. So I don't know. I believe Christopher Diaz coined the nickname Sad Sonos on a podcast many years ago.
Mouth off.
I believe, yes, indeed, it was mouth off. Yeah. So anyway, and we raised concerns about choreography and costumes and no effects pedals because we kind of stand still and have big feelings and use effects pedals. And you can't really do choreo. You can't move more than a foot away from your pedal or else you can't use it. So,
right.
And they assured us, no, you can bring the pedals. It's the third year of the show. We don't know how much longer the show's going to go on. And so we just want to do everything we can, pull out all the stops and make this as interesting as possible. You can totally bring your pedals. And we were like, well, I mean, okay, that seems kind of fun and would be great promotion to be on TV doing the thing that we already do. So we sort of hit pause on recording and went and were on the Sing Off for 5 minutes and then came right home. We were there a couple of weeks. I think we did 2 episodes or 3 episodes. I think we did 2 episodes. So we weren't there long. In the end, they weren't the producerial folks weren't comfortable with the use of pedals because they thought it would be confusing to the viewers at home if there were 16 groups competing and one of them had little steel boxes on the floor and were tapping on them and weird sounds were resulting.
Right.
Which I completely get. Like, that's a pretty solid argument. Unless you take a long while to explain and demonstrate why we use these and what they do, that would be weird. I would be weird. I would be weirded out as an average viewer and be like, well, why? What? So we did it without them, and so we sounded like a very tiny, quiet band. I sing bass primarily in the group. I sing bass, and I'm not a bass in the least. I sing my bass lines in a tenor register, and I double octavize my voice. So, so we didn't have any. There were no low notes to be found if you're on the show. So yeah, that was fun, and that was a couple weeks of like a sweet little summer gig, and then we went back to recording, and yeah, everybody, I think, went deep into their insecurities and did battle and came out with songs I'm super proud of. Like, it's really nice and really fun to listen to that record still, and to really like it. Like, and I can say that because I only wrote 2 of the songs on it.
So speaking of which, we've probably said it in the intro already, but we're doing a special little homage to Song Exploder. If you've heard it before, it's a podcast where they break down certain songs. So we mutually agreed on Morning Light, which is the 3rd song on the record. So before we like go in and break it down and whatnot, could you kind of speak to the general starting point for it? So whether it be music or lyrics or what sort of came first in the process?
Sure, yeah. Morning Light, the primary motive for it, or the primary little melody for it, the one in the chorus, was actually, I think it was the alarm sound on like an old crappy cell phone that I had. It went bum 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 bum. Wow. Just like a generic ringtone, and it woke me. We were on tour. We were in like Michigan or somewhere, and I woke up to that in our motel, and my brain put morning light, like put the words morning light to it, and I thought it was cute and silly, and that I would never use it for anything because that doesn't sound like a good song. But it kind of just kept rolling around in my head. So I messed with it for a while and started to try to picture a chord progression under that, and something that I like to do a lot, both in if I'm writing or if I'm arranging or if I'm recording or whatever, I like to play a lot with effects, with various types of effects. Right. One of my favorite types of effects is delay, particularly timed delay, so that you can set a note value to one or more delay voices, if you will. And so, one of my favorite ones to do, which just sort of automatically generates I think an interesting rhythm, is to have like a stereo delay and to set one side to a quarter note and to set one side to a dotted quarter note. So you get a ba ba ba. Just by creating a single tone or a single percussive sound. If you just go ba, you get ba 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 ba. And so I was fooling around with that and just played like the bass notes, which went bum 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 bum, and got. And I was like, oh, cool. There we go. There's most of a song. There's like most of the DNA of the song. Great. I'm a very lazy songwriter. Like, great. I did it. I'm done. Morning light, ba, ba, ba. Kathy, embarrassingly for me, Kathy is the best bass in our group. Which, yeah. I think part of the reason was I thought, well, if we're going to perform this live, it's going to be someone else singing through a double octave or an octave. And Kathy is a great singer in general. Her rhythm is particularly incredible. And when she sings in her low register, it has like the most velvety, awesome sound ever. It's effing great. I love it so much. I call those notes jacuzzi notes. She'll probably slap me for saying that here. But yeah, she's like a killer awesome bass as well as a killer awesome the whole other frequency range. So yeah, it just seemed like a good like color choice and vibe choice. Not only because that's how it would happen live, but because it sounds so good. It sounds velvety and awesome, I think. Yeah, that was a similar thing. That's with the delay wise. It's a different rhythm, but that's a multi-head delay. So basically, it's just another type of delay, and in this case, I had it repeat whatever comes through. I have it repeat on a 16th note grid a very specific number of times. I think it's 4 times with this. So the notes going through that are bum 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 bum, and each time they hit, it's just the delay catching it and repeating it exactly 4 times, and then shutting off. So same kind of thing, sort of just choosing, like making melodic and harmonic decisions and running it through that delay and seeing what comes out, and tweaking it until it's a thing that I like. But yeah, that's where that part came from. The first rhythmic stuff that I put in there. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll have Ben come over and just record for 10 seconds. I'll just be like, hey, will you give me like a fresh kick, snare, and some hi-hatty things? They sound so much better when he does it. And I can like use them as samples to cut and paste, so that when he comes in to actually record his real final stuff, there's sort of a template there rather than like notating rhythms on a 5-line staff, which I think would be a waste of everyone's time. Yep. I can be like, so like roughly this, but cooler, like you would do it if you were doing it. Yeah, first rhythmic stuff came in that way, where I copy pasted Ben samples, and then he came in and laid a bunch of stuff down over it. And then the actual first percussive sounds you hear in the song I went through, I think, his entire take and grabbed every hi-hat sound that happened in the drummy sequence he was doing, and just put them next to each other as 8th notes or 16th notes. I can't remember which. Yeah, I think like a weird sideways compliment that, I don't know, straight up compliment that he got when we were on the show for those 5 minutes. Ben Folds referred to his VP as sounding like a broken drum machine that you find in a thrift store, but like that it sounds awesome. It sounds like weird and different and awesome. And I totally agree. Like his drum sound more like an 808 than like a physical acoustic drum of any kind. And I love it. I totally love it. So yeah, most of the time for most Sonos and Aurora music, the drums, I mean, there are some things where it's like produced to high hell just because it feels appropriate. But there's a lot of instances where it's just what Ben recorded turned way up and that's it. And I think probably like verse to chorus, I did some sort of motion moves with some of his sounds, just to be, in place A and then be in place B later. As for like backgrounds, like background vocals, background parts, I think those really did grow out of just the bass line, like the chord roots and that rhythmic delay. The da 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 da, because that's the bass line, but an octave above that is Kathy's real voice and going do 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 do, and the do 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 do, the Jess stuff is I think it was like single notes also with that same delay. Not entirely, but anyway, yeah, that delay kind of grew the parts automatically for me, which was nice. Again, lazy songwriter. Yeah, another awesome secret weapon of the end for the end result that we get is the folks in the band have really, really pretty voices. So it sounds really, really cool when Jess and Rachel go, ha.
Yes, it does.
It's like weirdly simple. It's like, wow, that's so beautiful. It has very little to do with what I wrote. Yeah, kind of the whole, I feel like the overarching vibe of each and every little aspect of that song is like an almost embarrassingly simple thing done a really specific way. Yeah. And I think that's why it all kind of sits together, and like the sparseness you were talking about and stuff. It's like just enough to kind of be the song. I'd get to a moment in the song, and I would feel like it needed something really specific, but not specific in terms of like a note or a chord or a rhythm. It would need something specific, sort of atmospherically or abstractly. Like I would think like, oh, this needs to feel like it's glowy all of a sudden, or like there's like light is coming in, or you see sort of like tracers or streamers suddenly in your field of vision, but sonically. And a real fun way to try to achieve stuff like that to me is to, once again, just fool around with effects. Take a really simple sound, take a simple single note of one of the ladies in the group just going ha, and like hard tuning it or pitch shifting it, and then drowning it in reverb, and then printing that, and then bringing that back into the DAW and flipping it over, and just playing around with really pretty timbres and doing things that that it's not meant to sound like a voice would do, but you sort of, it still has like the organic DNA of the human voice in there. Like it's very clearly made out of a voice. And it's kind of my favorite stuff to fool around with and make anyway when producing music is taking a really, really natural sound and treating it in really unnatural, weird ways, but ideally keeping the timbre of the living thing in it. I think I tried to minimally tune my vocal in this song. I think sort of in the interests of vulnerability. I have absolutely no bones about tuning the holy crap out of my vocals when I record things. If as long as it sounds the way I want it to and it's done, I'm thrilled about that. But I also tried to sing it well. But yeah, it seemed like the little scoops and little sort of vocally fragile aspects that you get when you don't tune a vocal much or at all. I feel like those sort of lend themselves to the song. It's it's like an apology song. It's like a I'm taking off my armor type song. So yeah, it just felt appropriate. And yeah, I don't think I did much, other than general EQ and compression of a vocal. And if I can perhaps turn this relapse into release, we'll find the middle in the morning light, morning light, morning light, morning light. In the case of this, like the lead on this song, when we did this song specifically, I think I got a little bit overwhelmed with time management, basically making sure that I was giving my best like awake moments of music production and everything else to everyone else's songs. I would feel really, really horrible if we put out a record and my songs all sounded super clean and definitely finished, and everyone else's sounded like various shades of almost finished or something. So I kind of backburnered a lot of my stuff. Like I don't think I finished my songs until nearly the end. Yeah. And I probably put this vocal on, I think near the end. I think I remember thinking like, all right, take this seriously and do a good job, but don't be precious. Don't do 17 takes of anything. Don't, just don't do that. I mean, if you keep screwing something up, hit it over and over until you get it. But yeah, I think I deliberately tried to not. In general, I don't like to be overly perfectionistic. I mean, I have the tendency, just like I think every creative person does, to be obsessive and overly detail oriented. In chasing a certain result. But in all my years recording, I find that 9 times out of 10, I like a scratch vocal performance more than I like a comped lead. Not every time, but like most of the time, because there's this very alive, natural, real, vulnerable, awesome, beautiful human aspect that you can feel. Like more than you hear it, you feel it. It feels like a person is singing to you. And when you have a comped, polished vocal, it can be really impressive. But and in an era where you can move any sung note or performed note to any other pitch or any performed rhythm to any other rhythm, I feel like the premium on virtuosic singing or virtuosic performing is sort of shifted down a little bit. It's not as amazing to hear a perfect vocal because, well, we don't know if it's perfect because you did that or if someone else did that afterward. So I don't know. It seems a little bit less interesting to get something absolutely perfect, to me anyway, and more interesting to sort of catch it off guard, sort of capture a vulnerable thing. I think is way cooler than a perfect thing. Morning light, morning light, morning light, morning light, morning light. The verse lyrics, I know they all came really late. I think they came like the week that I recorded the song. I had the melody all sussed out. I mean, I remember like making scrambled eggs and going da 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 da. It's like, that's nice. Find words that aren't stupid. Just find some not stupid words. They can be really vague. They can be super abstract, whatever. And then I just kind of tried sentence fragments on like clothes, you know, just like I'm glad I didn't keep record of the other things I tried out because I know that they were stupid. But yeah, I tried stuff on until I found stuff that didn't bug me and that I didn't think was stupid. And I don't mean that in a self-deprecating way. Even I really mean like trying to listen to what I was singing as impressionistic and get as impressionistic a response as I could of like stuff I was singing. If that makes sense. And go, okay, does that feel trite? Does that feel genuine? Does that feel like a sentiment that you would express to someone that you were apologizing to? That you were like, you know. And so I'll throw the fight that overnight will lift away. That was both of those pre-choruses were other words for a long time. I think they were. I really don't like them, but I'll tell you them here. They're fine. They're just didn't feel good. It was like, and so I closed my eyes, let stillness in, remembering. Which to this day, Rachel is mad at me that I changed it from that. She's like, no, that was just right. That was really simple and honest, and you should have just kept it that. But whatever, man. But I like, some of my favorite lyricists are like. There's like kind of weird, beautiful symmetry and like odd things will rhyme in an odd way, or like the picture painted is sort of from a funny side view instead of a straight ahead view. And I kind of like, I feel like that lyric does that reasonably well. I don't know. I'm the least sure of myself as a lyricist of like all the aspects of making songs. Lyrics usually come last because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. When I was making stems of the song, I got to that part and was like, wait, what the hell is that? I love that, and I remember doing that, but what the hell did I make that out of? That doesn't sound like voices at all. And I went and bypassed a bunch of EQs and things and listened, and it might be my voice pitch shifted up like 2 octaves into like ridiculous, phony, falsetto-y, like really like honky, awful sounding sound. But like the sort of like Monty Python spam, like falsetto sound, like that timbre. But you scoop off all of the high with an EQ and you just kind of get the pitch. And I just cut snippets into a sort of a funny rhythm of those 3 notes, and sent them through a delay, and then drown them in a reverb, a specific reverb, and got that kind of angel light bells sound as an end result. Morning light, morning light, morning light, morning light. I think I probably got there and went like, oh, yep, that's what's gonna end. That's how the song's gonna end. I feel like I didn't know from the get go that that's how it necessarily end. But when you listen to when you like highlight in Pro Tools or Logic or whatever you're working in, when you like highlight your chorus and are working on your chorus while it's playing, and you hear it like 374 times in a row. You go like, God, how the hell we have to leave this? How do we leave this? And I think I muted percussion and started humming the bass line on the words "Morning Light" or whatever, and liked it. So tried it, and I really like how it ends. And I am very self-conscious of how repetitive this song is, because, you know, the 4-chord progression of the chorus repeats, but also the single phrase, morning light, morning light, morning light, morning light. Yeah, I think it borders on overkill, but either my friends are being really nice to me and keeping the truth from me, or no one has a terrible problem with it. So I'm glad of that.
And so I think we're going to wrap it up there. Chris, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Dude, thank you guys so much.
And we will play you out with Morning Light by Aurora.
My heart will learn its key while you are fast asleep. I try to cool my head, reverse the things I said, and if I can perhaps turn this relapse into release, we'll find the middle in the morning light. Morning light, morning light, morning light. The battlefields I choose are keeping me confused. I'm wrong for all I know. Forgive by letting go. And so I'll throw the fight that overnight will lift away. We'll find the middle in the morning light. Morning light, morning light, morning light, in the morning light, morning light, morning light, morning light. The shadow feeling left behind, the memory and the stain. I'm thankful I can always find relief in my refrain. Morning light, 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 morning light.
Oh, that's horrible. I sang freaking 1,000 miles when I
That's a well-constructed song. I'm not upset.